everyone. Welcome to the Coffee in the Green Room podcast. Here on Coffee in the Green Room, we have those conversations you may not have on stage, but you have behind stage in the green room before you get on stage. Today, I am so excited to have Sir Darren Jacklin on the podcast with me. Sir Darren, thank you so much for being here today.
Hey, Deneen, I'm grateful to be here and be in service and make a difference.
Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful to have you too. You have such an amazing story. So before we get into the podcast, can you give my listeners just a little background on who you are and how you got to be Sir Darren Jacklin?
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah. So I can give you kind of the backstory, the come up story, the success story, kind of high level. Interesting story. I failed grade 1 of public school, misdiagnosed with a learning disability and a reading disability. And was determined by the public school system that I was unfit to attend public school. So from grade 1 all the way through to grade 12, I was in special education and on a pharmaceutical drug called Ritalin in elementary school. When I was 7 years old, I created my first business called Rent a Kid. I would go out and cut grass, shovel snow, deliver newspapers by knocking on doors in my neighborhood, looking for ways to be of service to make a difference in my community. By the time I was 9 years of age, with my Rent a Kid business, I hired my two best friends, which 45 years later, 4.5 decades later, we're still great friends to this day. And we did a lot of great things in our community. Failed my way through junior high school, got into high school. Grade 11 was taken out of class one day by a guidance counselor and the school teacher and said, Darren, based on your academic marks, you're probably not going to get your grade 12. You're never going to go to college or university. What do you want to do with your life? I said, I want to make a lot of money. I want to have a lot of fun. I want to make a big difference. And I want to build a portfolio of companies. And they said, well, why do you want to do this? I said, I want options. I want freedom. I want choices. And they both looked at each other and said, well, Darren, based on your academic marks, kids like you aren't going to go very far, right? Because you're not going to get a university or college degree. You're what we call a throwaway kid. And you're barely past, if you do, going to pass high school. So I did pass with a grade point average of like 54%, just passed by. I was a D student, labeled most likely not to ever succeed in the graduating class of 1991 in Swift Current, Saskatchewan, Canada. So I left high school with no direction, no focus, ended up doing multiple suicide attempts to end my life by driving my car towards the telephone pole at 85 miles an hour, 140 kilometers an hour. And I did this multiple times because I had so much trauma and so much pain from my childhood growing up with the feeling of not being good enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough, never going to amount to much. So I had all this negative self-talk and programming from childhood, which is trauma for myself. And so I was in a lot of pain as a young boy. I was in a lot of pain and a lot of confusion and no direction and no focus. And so what happened was my final attempt at suicide, I decided I couldn't do it. I got really scared. And I drove my car to a 24-hour telephone crisis line, rang the door buzzer. A lady came out. They invited me in and offered me counseling. This is back in the early 1990s. And from there, I got introduced to Dale Carnegie training and then Toastmasters International. And those two organizations, Dale Carnegie Training and Toastmasters, became foundational for my new environment, because our environments are stronger than our willpower to really shape my values, my beliefs, my actions and behaviors, but also most importantly, build my self-confidence and my identity, my belief in myself, because I didn't believe in myself. I was very insecure. And so from there, I went off and got a job as a telemarketer and used to make 400 cold calls a day, 2,000 cold calls a week, calling across Canada, selling magazine subscriptions for a national magazine here in Canada between 5 and 9 p.m. And after 7 months, I was the #1 telemarketer in Canada for making outbound phone calls with a 98% rejection rate. It was a very high rejection rate. And my boss came to me afterwards and he said, Darren, listen, this is a dead end road for you. You're living paycheck to paycheck. We can't bonus you anymore. You can't make, it doesn't matter how many phone calls you make in a day. You're never going to get any further ahead. It's not going to advance. And I said, Glenn, what do you think I should do? He said, I think you should go and pursue a corporate training business. So in 1995, with the help of lots of telephone books, I used to dial for dollars and call businesses from A to Z out of the phone books. And I used to make 400 cold calls a day, 2,000 cold calls a week. And over a 5-year period, made over 100,000 cold calls on my own, calling businesses across North America. And sometimes I was 3, 4, 5 months behind on paying my bills. Had a terrible credit rating, got my car repossessed, ended up becoming homeless, eat my next meal at a garbage dumpster. I was on welfare for a few months. And I actually had an R9 credit rating, which if you look at from a metric standpoint with TransUnion Credit and Equifax, an R9 credit rating in North America is the worst possible credit score that you can get as a metric with the credit scoring system. And so I went from there to turning things around, not overnight, but over a period of time, to achieving, I've been to NASDAQ now 3 times in New York City to ring the closing bell. I helped take a company from a startup to a multi-billion-dollar company. I have a group of companies now through the Darren Jacklin Group of companies. One of our companies is an accounting bookkeeping service we started last year. We do over $1 million this year in revenue. I have an international family foundation. We've committed $100 million over the next decade towards global philanthropy and building 100 schools around the world for the next generation and stuff. So we're playing some really big games with the help of teams. And I've also got over 7,000 written goals now for my life, which I realize that most of my goals and dreams don't require my actions. It's all about creating teams and teamworks of people that run all the day-to-day operations. So statistically, when you look at my life, I shouldn't be where I'm at today. It doesn't make any sense. But I'm a great case study because I overcome so much adversities and failures and challenges and setbacks. And I know what to do now during the waking hours of my day in terms of daily habits and daily routines and systems and structures and processes. And I also know what not to do. And so now I'm in my 50s and I can look back on my life throughout the decades of my life and say, okay, don't do that because time will either promote you or time will expose you. It's just a matter of time. If you do this, you'll get promoted. If you do this, you'll get exposed. So choose wisely. And so I've made lots of mistakes. I've had challenges. I've had setbacks in my life, but I'm blessed with gratitude now in my life that now I can look at opportunities and I can see, okay, here's the structure, here's the systems, here's the process that we need to put into place. Here's the team members on the bus, and here's how we grow and scale that. But earlier, in my life, it was just confusion and just whatever work, hustle and grind, and then realize, oh my gosh. And so, I've achieved a lot of financial success in my life today, but there was times where I was upside down financially with an R9 credit rating, living on welfare, my next meal of a garbage dumpster. So I know how to, make a lot of money, and I also know what not to do in terms of management of money. So same thing with my health. 4 years ago, I was statistically obese and fat and overweight. I was a junk foodaholic. I was a fast foodaholic, and I was addicted to sugar. And now I've transformed my life, and I'm climbing some of the biggest mountains in the world to create exposure and awareness towards mental health and stuff. So I know when it comes now with food and health and nutrition and exercise of what not to do, because I was that guy that never exercised, never went to a gym, and just lived on fast food and junk food and sugar products.
Yeah. Wow. It's so much to unpack. So much to unpack in that. So it sounds to me like you've overcome so many adversities, and there were obviously some turning points where you're like, okay, enough is enough.
Yes.
I don't want to eat out of the dumpster again. I want to be financially secure. So there's no way that you can unpack everything that you've ever done in order to get there. But can you, for my audience, I'm sure that everyone can relate to some part of your story.
Sure.
Like we've all hit rock bottom at some point.
Absolutely.
Health, finances, emotion, mental health, like we've all hit rock bottom. And if you haven't hit rock bottom yet, just listen. And this way, when you hit rock bottom, you know what to do. But what is one thing that you've done? Like, I love this. I don't love the story that you were like ready to commit suicide, but I love that at the last time you're like, I can't do this again. And you went to get help. Like, what was the catalyst between the suicide attempts and then you be like, okay, you know what? This pattern of repeatability is not working for me. It's not serving me. Let me go get some help.
Yeah. So I was living financially paycheck to paycheck for a number of years of my life. And then what I realized, I was living panic to panic. So I would solve a panic in my life, and then another panic, especially would occur, and I'd be in that panic and then solving that panic, and then panic to panic to panic. And so when I was 38 years of age, that was a defining moment of my life, because I just got so disgusted with my life. But the biggest thing is I look back and I reflect on my life, and one of the things I'm grateful for is over the last 30 plus years, I've journaled every day of my life.
Wow.
And it's a daily habit I have. I journal every single day of my life. And what I realized, one of the big defining moments that moved the needle in my life was when I actually confronted myself, Deneen, on lying to myself. Oh. How much I lied to myself about everything. I exaggerated things. I embellished things. I wanted to look good with my image and my ego around people. So I'd inflate myself and put myself on a pedestal. All these things in my 20s and my 30s and my early 40s that I would do because I felt that I was never good enough, never smart enough, never going to amount to much, never worried enough. So I had that internal childhood trauma and internal insecurities and fears and doubts and worries. And the biggest thing for me is when I confronted myself to actually look at how much I actually lied to myself. I lied about my health. I lied about my working out. I lied about my finances, lied about relationships. How are you today? I'm fine. How are you? Okay, great. Meanwhile, I'm struggling. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about suicide. Meanwhile, I'm thinking about, I'm done. I'm done with life. I'm in so much pain. All these things that I lied, and I just stacked lies on top of the lies. And so when I started to unpack lies around my finances, hey, Darren, you're not doing good. You're upside down financially. You owe a lot of money. You have collection agencies and creditors after you. You owe money for years behind on taxes. Okay. People are chasing you looking for money. Now, today, I've got my money right and I'm in financial integrity. Okay.
Yeah.
But the thing was, I had a lot of messes to clean up and a lot of out of integrities. And what I realized in my life, that I had no integrity. I had no integrity. And that was a big thing for me when I was not somebody who was accountable and responsible for keeping my word.
Yeah.
In fact, I share with people today that, most people we hear in business today that talk is cheap.
Yeah.
I think let's go a step further. Most people cheapen their talk because their words have no power. And I was one of those people. My words had no power. I'd say something, you'd listen to my words, but my feet didn't match my words. So I always say to people, don't watch people's words, watch their feet. Because behavior never lies.
Yeah.
Behavior never lies. And my behavior was, don't trust this guy, right?
Yeah.
And so now,
yourself.
didn't trust myself because I didn't know if I could follow through because I'm not good enough. And I had this reoccurring negative self-talk story. See, Darren, here's all the evidence in your life. The school teachers told you you're never going to amount to much. The school educators, your first bosses you ever had, your parents tried to protect you to the best they could. So I was playing the old poor me, poor the victim versus becoming the victor. And the challenge was, Deneen, in the back of my mind, I always thought someone was going to come and rescue me.
Oh, you know what? And this might be a female thing, I don't know, but like all the fairy tales, oh, a knight in white shining armor is going to come rescue you one day.
Yeah.
And like, so that resonates so deeply, not only, I'm sure with a lot of women as well, even no matter how many times you're like, oh no, I can rescue myself. There's always that thought in the back of your mind. So how did you come to terms with the fact that no one was coming to rescue you, that you had to be the savior of your own story?
Great question. Here I am, I'm on welfare. I'm homeless. I'm living in an apple orchard, actually not too far from where I am right now. I have a secondary home and it's just up the road here, a few minutes drive. And I go by there just to remember where I come from. And I remember one night living in this apple orchard, flat broke financially, terrified about life, not knowing where my next financial dollar is going to come from, not knowing where my next meal is going to come from, living in a first world country, having a first world problem. And yet other people around the world. And that night, a black bear came into the apple orchard to eat because it was in August and it was warm summer nights and it was starting to look for the apples for food source. And I was in this black bear's food source and I realized, oh my gosh, my life might come to an end here in the next few minutes with this black bear confronting me because I'm in its territory. And at that moment, I realized, and this is back before cell phones or before the internet, right? This is 1990s. I realized that, oh my gosh, no one's coming to rescue me. I have to confront this black bear with my own fear, my doubts, my worries, and insecurities by myself. And at that moment, I realized, oh my gosh, I got to start becoming accountable and responsible and taking care of myself. Wow. And it was such a scary moment, but it was such a defining moment in my life as a metaphor because I realized, oh my gosh, where else does this show up in my life? When I really take inventory and audit my life, where else? Because how we do anything in life is how we do everything in life.
Yeah.
And that was a turning point in realizing that all these things that I was doing in my life was a result of my actions and my behaviors.
Yeah.
And so I really dialed back to say, okay, what do I do during the waking hours of my day? What am I giving my word to? And when I give my word to something, it's my personal promise, my personal integrity. Yeah. Because without integrity, nothing works. Now, if you would have told me that years ago, I would have said, what are you talking about? That's a bunch of crap, right? Yeah. Now I realize that without integrity, nothing works. There's no workability. And I can watch and observe people today that are younger than me or some even older than me. And I can look at how they do business, how they're in their relationship. I'm thinking, okay, that person, time will either promote you or time will expose you. It's just a matter of time. That person's getting away with what they're doing right now, their actions and their behavior, but that's going to compound through a ripple of impact. And that's going to expose them in the next 3 to 5 years. So people always ask me to go, hey, Darren, what do you think of this? I said, well, time will promote you, or time will expose you. It's just a matter of time. And so it's so powerful when we look at things, when people lie, they cheat, they steal, they exaggerate things, they embellish things, which I did, full disclosure, in my early 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
And then I realized, boom, here I'm getting exposed. I got exposed almost 5 years ago with my health and fitness because of the choice I was making by eating fast food, addicted to sugar, eating a lot of fast food everywhere I was traveling. And that just compounded to where eventually I could hardly even put on my dress shirt and my pants because my buttons are going to burst on my pants and my dress shirt. And I got exposed. And so I really look at now what consciously am I doing with my actions, my words, and then what's the ripple of impact that will have on myself, my teams, and other people around me. Very mindful of what I give my word today because my words create my world.
Yeah.
And people really, they're to write things down like my words create my world. When we realize the power of our words create our world, your life will change.
Yeah.
Right? It's
I love
powerful.
it. It is so powerful because I mean, I deal with hundreds of people I feel like on a daily basis. And it's so,
Mhm.
you can always tell the people that are destined for more for success or for
Yes.
failure by what they say. And sometimes something that I used to be a person who was always used self-deprecating humor. I would always be the butt of my own jokes. But what
Yes.
I've realized through what you're saying, I've been doing a lot of soul searching and studying of this as well. But when you make fun of yourself, what are other people saying? You're giving other people permission and you're giving the universe permission
Yeah.
to treat you the way that you're treating yourself. So your words are so powerful. So you've had some amazing, amazing experiences. Let's talk. One of the things I love, one of the stories that you tell that I love, and I would love for you to share with my audience, is climbing to the top of a mountain. How did you go from someone 5 years ago that was addicted to sugar, that could barely lace up your shoes, to being someone now who's climbing mountains and taking people on journeys?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thing.
It's interesting. So here I am. I'm in Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada. I'm speaking at an international real estate conference just before COVID-19. I'm one of the guest speakers for about 1,200 people in the audience, the who's who across North America in real estate, right? With
Wow.
some of the biggest brands, biggest companies, biggest teams, biggest brokerages, biggest franchises. And I'm in my hotel room realizing, oh my gosh, got this brand new suit, brand new dress shirt, and I'm about to blow my buttons on my dress shirt. And I'm thinking to myself, they're videotaping, it's being televised on the internet internationally, they're recording this. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I feel so embarrassed that I'm going to go on stage. And so I'm just like disgusted with myself in my hotel room that day. I'm disgusted. Go out, do a phenomenal presentation. I'm well prepared, well planned, and organized, but I'm disgusted with myself internally. I get on the telephone and I start calling some friends of mine in Vancouver. It was my primary home. And I said, look, I am so out of shape. I need to start working out. I don't have a gym membership, never been to a gym, but I need to start working out. I see you on social media doing these hikes around the Vancouver area. Can I come out with you? So I know I've got running shoes, a pair of jeans, cotton socks. I got no hiking equipment or no hiking gear. I'm not that guy, right?
Yeah.
So I go with some friends of mine that are real estate agents in Vancouver. We do this little bunny hill, right? It's a beginner hiking hill that kids in elementary school could do in about 45 minutes to an hour. It takes me 2 hours and 40 minutes to get to the top of this hill because I'm so out of shape and so out of breath. I get to the top, and the two real estate agents I'm with, they have to go show open houses because on the weekend. So they leave me up there. I'm freaking terrified because I don't want to call 911 and have the fire department or search and rescue come pick me up and bring me off the hill. Because
Yeah.
this is not a big hill. This is a little beginner hill. It's not a big mountain. So I decide to sleep up there and take a nap. And people are coming and going up this hill and taking pictures and with groups and individuals. Finally get back down to my vehicle. It took me about 5.5 hours round trip. And I get to my vehicle and I say to myself, I don't want to live my life this way anymore. I'm done. Don't want to live my life this way anymore. And so I commit to 15 minutes a week of physical exercise. That's my stretch goal of 15 minutes a week. This is just almost 5 years ago. Today, I do 4 hours a day, non-negotiable, of health and fitness training between gym and hiking every day. 4 hours a day. That's scheduled. And then sometimes I do Zoom calls and telephone calls in between that. But I have it structured where I have cell phone range if I'm out in the mountains. But I start with 15 minutes a week,
Wow.
15 minutes. And now it's 4 hours a day. And So what happened was I started hiking. I started documenting on my social media just as a digital footprint to, because it's cool when you see a year from now or 5 years from now on your Facebook, it comes up that here's your moment or your history. So that'd be cool to digitally document that. I started to have people following me and say, hey, Darren, listen, I would love to come out hiking with you. I'm thinking, well, okay, why do all these people want to come out hiking with me? I'm just a beginner. So I started to create this movement where now I've got 150 plus people in a WhatsApp group that follow me. I've now, with our linked foundation, we have an international foundation called Elevate to Educate, where we do take a hike and build a school. We're committed to building 100 schools around the world. So one of my crises in my life, just to improve my health, fitness, and well-being and mental health, is now an international movement of people coming around the world to take a hike and build a school at hikingfundraiser.com. And so what happened was, I started doing all these hikes. People started coming out. I released 45 pounds in weight over a short period of time from just consistently hiking and have it structured in my calendar. And now I have a global movement called E2E Elevate to Educate, where people come from all over the world to come hiking with me in such a, like, we're talking, it's just like a 4-year span. And then I get a phone call from a friend of mine. He says, hey, Darren, in 2023, I'm turning 40. And I'd love for you to be a part of my Mount Kilimanjaro team. I'm like, yeah, right. Come on, Aaron. Listen, let's be realistically here. Listen, I am not an athlete. Why would you waste your time and energy even call me, even give me this invitation? Do you realize how crazy this is? Like you and I say we're going to go ride a bull in a rodeo in Texas. Like this just doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, Darren, listen, you're an overachiever when it comes to business and finance. You can prepare and train for this. I'll give you 1 year. So I'm like, so I accepted the challenge and I went in July 14th of 2023. I summited Mount Kilimanjaro at 19,340 feet in elevation, 5,895 meters on that morning at 7:20 a.m. And it was a defining moment in my life, one of the epic experiences of my life when I realized, oh my gosh, I'm here on the rooftop of Africa on one of the highest points on planet Earth.
Wow.
And I made it up here in this meat suit. I climbed this mountain in this meat suit, which was an impossible goal for me. It was an impossible goal. I didn't have the belief, even though I have over 7,000 written goals for my life, it was an impossible goal for me, such a stretch goal that was beyond my imagination and visualization of me ever achieving something like that. It was so out of my mind of a goal, because I didn't identify with my values and beliefs and my daily actions to ever doing something like that. My life didn't demonstrate that. I had no evidence around my life that I could ever train and develop myself to ever do that. Now I've taken on climbing some of the biggest mountains in the world to create awareness around mental health awareness and to help to alleviate poverty around the world and bring in clean drinking water, but also to help create food security, but also change the business game of networking. Because so many people today on the internet and social media are transactional, but they're not relational, where people get to know you and like you and trust you. So one of the ways around authenticity and vulnerability is take people hiking out in the wilderness. Because if I take you out hiking, the first thing in the back of your mind is that you have to trust me because there might be some wild animals out here in the wilderness.
Yeah.
So you've got to have an authentic conversation like, hey, Darren, listen, you're taking me out in the wilderness. We might see some wild animals here. Listen, like, how are we going to do this? But if we go play pickleball or go play tennis or go play golf, you don't have that condition in your mindset of protection and survival, what your brain's doing. You're just going to play golf or pickleball. So I love being out in nature with hiking because it takes care of our well-being, our mental health, but also we get a chance to peel away the layers of the onion of our identity as a human being and have authentic, enriching, inspiring conversations that matter. And I've seen so many incredible conversations over the last few years, but also millions and millions of dollars of money changing hands for business deals out on the hiking trails. Just like people say golf courses. Listen, I see more deals happen on hiking trails than I do on golf courses now.
That's
because here's the cool thing. When you're out on a hiking trail and we're sweating together or we're struggling a little bit, climbing up a mountain, we bond together. We chemically change chemicals in our physical body because of our heightened situational awareness of wild animals. What if, right? So our mind's much more aware in terms of mental alertness. Our creativity and our imaginations are heightened. When we're hiking, we're working on flexibility, range of motion, core strength, and balance. And we feel better breathing all the oxygen from all the nature, all the fresh animals, or probably all the fresh plants that we're breathing in. So, and then if we get to the top, it's a sunrise or a sunset, or we got a beautiful view. We remember that emotional experience. So we bond together. And that's the
Wow.
difference when it comes to hiking. So I've created this global movement called E2E Elevate to Educate that people can learn more about at hikingfundraiser.com. And we're changing people's lives, not only through mental health, but also through networking, because as human beings, all we are is a network of conversations, and opportunities live inside of conversations. So
Yeah.
if we change your environment, we change your conversations, we change the opportunities, we change your future.
I love that so much,
Yeah.
especially because you can't take a golf cart up to the top of the mountain.
No.
Yeah, you actually have to put the effort in. So that's amazing on so many levels. That needs to be a global movement. Now,
Absolutely.
let's stop going on the golf course and let's start going on the hiking trail. I love
Yeah.
that. So, Sir Darren, what is something you're working on right now that you are super excited about? Like every time I talk to you, like just your energy is so infectious, like it's amazing. But what's something you're working on right now that you're like, it's really gets you revved up and gets you all fired up?
Good question. So two things. One is I love philanthropy and I love humanitarianism, right? So I love doing that stuff for the Link Foundation and Elevate to Educate. So, bringing people out into nature to go hiking is a big passion of mine, because I've seen how much I've transformed my life in terms of results, from releasing 45 pounds of weight to get the best physical shape of my life, to multiplying and expanding my energy, to having some incredible, enriching, collaborative, inspiring conversations with people from all walks of life. So that's a big thing with Link Foundation Elevate to Educate. So take a hike and build a school. That's something I love, because I get to bring people out for a few hours to come out hiking versus sitting in a coffee shop or a restaurant. And that few hours for a hiking fundraiser, now we get a chance to enrich people's lives by them building schools around the world for some of the most impoverished children on the planet. So that enriches my life and gives me so much joy and fulfillment. So there's that. And then taking boring businesses. So like right now we're doing a roll up, myself and my team, with buying accounting and bookkeeping firms across North America. And we're acquiring these firms to build up to a $50 million company over the next couple of years. So I like that, because I have no history or experience in bookkeeping or accounting, other than I paid a lot of money every year to bookkeeping and accounting.
Yeah.
And that's what I said to Tatiana. I said, look, we're spending all this money on all these invoices of bookkeeping and accounting. Why don't we just start acquiring bookkeeping and accounting firms? So I love doing that. I love creating opportunities. So I love buying businesses, growing businesses, building teams, which excites me, because I love seeing people create opportunities and possibilities, right? I'm a visionary. So I love getting around people who can good at running the day-to-day operations and seeing their creativity and their imagination. One of the things I love to do is I love to interview people while I'm actually out hiking, by giving people micro commitments. What I mean by micro commitments is if people can't follow through on little micro commitments, like reading 10 pages a day of a good book, watching a YouTube video, listening to a podcast, and they can't follow through and keep their word and their promise of doing a micro commitment, then I'm not going to delegate a big project to them or become a partner to them or invest in their business if they can't follow through on micro commitments.
All goes back to integrity. Do they
Exactly.
have integrity with themselves or with you? I love that.
Yeah. And one of the things I do too is, one of the things I'm grateful for in my life today is I have teams of women that work with me. I learned from making a lot of mistakes and cost me a lot of money financially, is listening to women's intuition, right? Women's intuition is so powerful. And I tell you, I'm blessed beyond gratitude with my life today about how much listening to women's intuition has transformed my life in business today with a group of companies. Because today we have a 3-step process. I always ask the ladies on my team, step number 1 is your intuition calm, green light. Step number 2 is it cautious, yellow light. And step number 3 is it nervous, red light. So calm, cautious, or nervous. And so I will always ask the ladies on my team, whether it's in person or virtually, hey, are you calm, cautious, or nervous about looking at this opportunity, hiring this person, looking at this joint venture, looking at this financial investment? Are you calm, cautious, or nervous? Because money comes in all different shades of green. And so the women will come back and say, I'm feeling calm. Okay, green light. I'm feeling cautious. Let's do more research, more due diligence, do a deeper dive, ask more questions, right? I'm nervous. Okay, let's complete this right now. It's red light. Let's not proceed any further.
Wow.
So that's been a big change in my life, is calm, cautious, or nervous.
That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
And no, I, you know what? I love that too, because a lot of times the way I do business, the way I onboard people to work either with VIP Ignite or VisionCraft is, if I like you and I feel good about it, let's do this. Like the interview is much shorter than if it's like, I don't know. So I appreciate that you've integrated that into your business, because I think that's so important, because so many times things look good on paper, but if there's that red flag that maybe like if you have if we all start working a little bit more on our intuition and started developing our intuition, I think the world would be a much better place.
Oh
For
yeah.
all of us.
I love taking people at nighttime hiking. So I take a lot of people. It's great for team building and community building. Even like single friends of mine that are single, I'm like, hey, come out nighttime hiking. What are you talking about? We go, it's pitch black out in the forest, out in the wilderness. We take lights with us, but sometimes we shut the lights off. We use the moon as our flashlight, as our guide.
Oh,
But
wow.
when you go out in the wilderness, everybody's crazy for the first 20 to 30 minutes. People are just freaking wild because
Yeah.
their fears, their doubts, their worries, their insecurities are all surfaced, right?
Yeah.
As a human being. And
Yeah.
then after about 30 minutes, people just calm down. And then they just zen right out and they chill right out. And then it's like, wow, this is magical out here. And
Yeah.
now you get a chance to see who this person really is without the mask or what the image, without the ego,
Yeah.
because they just surrender. And I just love taking people at nighttime hiking. It's taught me so much. It's enriched so much of my life. But also I've built some incredibly deep, enriching relationships with people because taking them out nighttime hiking, because a lot of people are scared of the dark. And then you enhance it out in the wilderness with wild animals, right? People are like, am I going to get eaten? Am I going to get attacked? Right? So
Yeah.
all that fight or flight or freeze comes out in people. But after they realize that, oh my gosh, like, okay, I've got your back. You've got my back. I'm here to protect you, here to keep you safe. People just surrender and they're like, oh my gosh. So you don't need to have any drugs. You don't need to go on any ayahuasca. You just go out into nature and just come out on a nighttime hike and you're just like, wow, this is incredible in terms of situational awareness, my mindset, all that stuff, just how I feel in my body. And then you surrender to it. It's an incredible experience.
Wow. That sounds amazing. Well, I know that your time is very valuable, so I don't want to take a whole lot more of your time, but if my listeners want to get in touch with you to find you, where can they find you so they can follow along on your journey?
Yeah, great. Great way is go to hikingfundraiser.com. That's what I'm really passionate about is hikingfundraiser.com. That will give you more about Elevate to Educate E2E. And if people don't like to hike, come out as a networker, come out as a walker. Just be in the environment, be in the community of like-minded people, because energy is contagious. And what I always share with people is it's not just about, in business, we look at return on investment. I say when you get around me, look at return on life, ROL, return on life. And ROE is return on energy. So go to hikingfundraiser.com. If people want, this is the book that came out that went over the world. Until I Become, they can order it online, Amazon or untilibecome.com. Well, it's less than 100 pages, but it's a very practical book that people use in their family library for years. And I always say, people, don't read this book, study this book as if your life depended on it. If you study it, you will have a completely different outcome in your life than if you just read it.
I love, I'm going to piggyback on what you said there. I talk to people a lot about education, and like I have a whole library of books sitting to the left of me right now. And what I tell people is that having those books looks really cool, but until I'm actually reading it and applying it, then it means nothing. So I love that you just said, don't just read the book, study the book. That's
we
amazing.
call it shelf help, right? It's shelf help.
Yeah.
But the key thing is following through it. I always, like, even when I'm flying a lot on airplanes now, I go to my book and I'll actually go through my book and I'll review it. I'll think, oh my gosh, because success leaves clues.
Yes.
Right. So I go back and I think to myself, wow, that was a moment in time of my life. It was a snapshot of my life, a frame. I'm thinking, wow. And it's interesting because I go back on my life now and I think to myself, there's still things that I use to this day when I'm 7, 8, 9, 10 years of age.
Yeah.
Right? That's in the book that I still use in my life today. Why? Because it works.
Yeah. Success leaves clues. All right. So website one more time for your
Go to hiking fun. People can always go to hikingfundraiser.com. Hikingfundraiser.com. You'll see lots of great information on there. And I'm all over social media as well. But yeah, go to hikingfundraiser.com. I'd love to have you come out. And if you want to spend some time with me, go to hikingfundraiser.com and you'll get a chance to hang out with me and hang out with some really cool people from around the world.
That sounds amazing. Thank you so much for your time today.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you for your energy, because literally every time I talk to you, I'm like, okay, I can do anything now. Your energy is just so infectious. So thank you so much for your energy. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And thank you so much for going to that center to get help, because the world would be so much poorer without you. So thank you so much for being here. We really
my pleasure.
it. Awesome. All right. So if you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you hit subscribe to the Coffee in the Green Room podcast, because you never know who I'm going to have next in the green room. Thank you so much and have an amazing day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.